So good morning, EBC. My name is Cherie and I'm part of the Christian Education Ministry at the church, where our goal is to equip the saints, not just on things that are pertaining to scriptural references, but also things that are happening in our community. And so April is actually Child Abuse Prevention Awareness Month. And it's a time where us as a community together to celebrate some of the small actions each of us can take that can make a big impact on the well-being of children in our community and in our church house. And so with us, we have Minister Regina, who has been working in the child abuse awareness world for quite some time, and she's going to give us some education, share a little insight on what we can do as a church and to build awareness around child abuse prevention. So, and Miss Regina, thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning.
Happy New Year. Good morning. Happy New Year. Can you start off by just kind of sharing what your experience has been in working in the child abuse awareness world and what exactly you do?
Yeah, so I was just sharing, happy to be here. So I've been with child welfare probably for a little more than 30 years, planning to retire soon. It's been a really great journey. And what I'm doing currently, and I'll just kind of back you into it, is I'm an administrator at child welfare. And I operate an entire county-wide innovation, if you will. It's something that the county had done before. We're in the middle of a crisis around young people. We're always in kind of a crisis, which is a little unfortunate. But the county was really courageous in thinking that they would build something different for young people. And it's the operation that I wrote the operational plan for. And I administer and have folks that run the daily operation for 2 sites that are located in the Northridge area. So it takes up a lot of my time, but it allows me the freedom to be super creative and to include all the things that I think are important in this arena. I would just add that given the 30 years that I've had, done some really creative work with thought leaders across the country, provide leadership to working with the Board of Supervisors around some child abuse prevention and some stuff with criminal justice and youth justice, do some lived experience work where we are implementing some mentors in the county. And we've had something similar before, but not like this. The mentors have lived experience and just really enjoying the opportunity to be really creative. I think my latest and greatest is receiving my doctorate in social work, which I just received in August, which adds to the work, right? And getting used to the title of doctor. And they've asked us to use it all the time. I don't mind, Regina, but just getting used to being able to just let folks know that this is an entire body of work, right? And there are only a couple of institutions that even have doctorate in social work programs. It's like 14 universities that offer that as a discipline. So it's been fun kind of incorporating that knowledge and academic information to the work and do some executive work too with the implementation and equity work. I sit on the executive team. So been doing a lot of stuff, speaking at some conferences, things like that.
I love it. Well, I apologize because you are right, Dr. Regina. I give credit where credit is due. Yes, you clearly are an expert in this realm. And so again, just thank you for taking time out to just shed some light on what things might look like in your world and what we can do to kind of help protect the well-being of children in our community. So we're just going to jump right in, just have a couple of questions and just feel free again just to elaborate on just again your lived experience in this profession. So first, I just want to ask, what are some of the different types of child abuse?
Yeah, I saw that question. It's a little loaded because when we think about it, child abuse is such a weighty topic.
Right.
And so the thought that we have kids that are not getting the best care is often difficult to talk about.
Right.
So what I'd like to say is typically what happens in the child welfare arena is there's a lot of general neglect. And oftentimes kids just wrestle with having some of their basic needs met. So that's kind of the middle place, but it's the place where most families are challenged, right? And I would use some of the language talks about kids having their basic needs met. You got to be able to eat and have a place to live, those kind of things before, we can do some other things with children. So those are the basic parameters. And so some of the other ones include things like physical, sexual abuse, child sexual exploitation, which is a real challenge. So it's really good that children are no longer labeled as being prostitutes or young prostitutes. The new laws say that they're victims, they can't consent.
Right.
So that's a different form. Parents that, willfully neglect. some parents that really don't have the resources to meet the needs of their kids. Those are all different forms, including knowing because you should have known, or not knowing because you didn't have the capacity to hold the water for some of that stuff. But that all falls in the same realm around child abuse. There are a couple of others, but just gives you a really general view of what that discipline looks like and the impact on children and families.
Right, right. Like you said, I know it was a very loaded question, and one that, it's uncomfortable sometimes to talk about because we don't want to look at, focus on those type of things that are happening in society, but they are. And so individuals, professionals like yourself are able to kind of shine that light. So we know kind of what to look for and the things to be aware of. What would you say are some of the general signs of child abuse or neglect that just a layperson would be able to recognize to kind of as a red flag?
Gosh, and that's really hard. I wouldn't want to give lay people information and then have them begin to like label children and families based on, some of their observations. So some of the obvious observations though might be, if you obviously see kids that are bruised, that's probably the greatest or the biggest red flag. And even in those instances, it doesn't mean it was intentional.
Right.
But that's something that when lay people look, it might, make you take a second look.
Right.
Then it's okay with taking a second look. Some of the others, because what we know about child welfare, well-being, safety, kind of prevention strategies is that children present with all kinds of clinical profiles, if you will, right? Sometimes you see kids, and they're withdrawn, and other kids you'll see them and they're really, really angry. Some kids don't engage at all.
Right.
Some kids refuse to eat because they just don't have the capacity to do that, where some kids overeat.
Right.
Because they're overwhelmed with what's happening in their environment and things are just out of control. So if you don't know what to do, the best thing to do is to refer to the Child Abuse Hotline. And the other thing is that there are professionals that do know. Yes. So I think clergy are mandated reporters.
Yes.
And so are mental health clinicians, hospitals, doctors, schools. Yes. So if there are questions, sometimes the best way to find out is just to listen and to observe. So that if something is happening, you can be someone that's available to either support a family or to provide a resource to a family. Right. But you don't have to diagnose, you don't have to get involved, you don't have to engage, not in a deep way, but you can ask in questions, and not many. Primarily listening is the best way to watch, engage, and see what's going on with families, because it's just too easy to misunderstand sometimes the dynamics. Yeah. And I think the impact, and this is the last piece I'll add, the impact of that is huge. So if we don't know, or even if I don't recognize and I make an allegation, once that ball is rolling, it is hard to stop.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So we wrestle with being able to do what we need to do for children on the one hand and doing it quickly on the other. Because if there are kids that need help, you want to make sure that they don't have to endure one more day of maltreatment.
Right.
It hurts just that much. And you'll hear adults talking about today how they were treated as children. It's not something that really goes away. Folks tend to mask very well, but managing and living in that space and living your life is just not really easy for folk to do.
Right.
So I hope that was helpful. So ask a professional might be the best way. I just wouldn't want you to misdiagnose, not even diagnose, to misthink or, think you see one thing and maybe it's something different.
Right. No, that's an excellent point. We don't want people just to, it's a heavy thing, right? So like you said, when you do make a report, you can't stop the ball once it's already in motion. So if you do suspect something, just to ask somebody, right? Ask a trusted person. Ask, like you said, there's people in our church body that have experience and would be able to kind of point you in the right direction. But the most important thing, like you said, is just to listen and to observe. And if you feel like something else might be going on, to reach out to those trusted individuals or professionals who can make that next call if necessary. So absolutely. How would you say, and I think you already answered it, if a child does disclose? So now it's not a question of if it's happening or is it, it's more the child is telling you that something is going on. What would you say the best response would be? And then how would we walk that child through what might or may happen next?
Yeah, so I would really be really thoughtful, even when children disclose. So I'll give you a kind of an example that kind of takes some of the weight off. So my dad is deceased, but my dad used to smoke cigarettes.
Mm,
And for my godson, he would think that that's abusive because it's secondhand smoke in my face. Well, it doesn't require a removal. It's not a drug, because he said it's a drug. He said, as his godmother, who said it's a drug. That's a conversation that he and I could have. But
mhm,
children's perspectives are
mm,
very different. And in 2024, in terms of what they believe they may be entitled to, may look very different. So I would still say the same thing. You still want to be watchful. You still want to listen. And if
mhm,
you're going to ask a question, I would actually ask you to not ask them questions and to go back, like you call them, a trusted adult. Ask
mhm.
them to ask the questions, because we can be leading in terms of the questions that we may be asking. So what did your mom do to you? Did your dad hit you? Wrong questions. Wrong
Absolutely.
questions. The questions really need to be, so how are you feeling? Tell me what's going on. What did you eat last night? What
Mhm,
happened after you ate? You have to really take your time to
mhm.
move into a space where children feel safe enough that they can share that information. So
Right.
it's not an easy conversation for them. It won't be an easy conversation for you, but it is a great opportunity to learn from kids and families. Because the other piece we know that is, if kids are removed from families, reconciling them is difficult. Housing is difficult.
Mhm,
And kids of color suffer the most in terms of being reunified. So the
mm,
first step is, we don't want kids to be removed. We want to be
right.
able to provide a safety net for them.
Yeah.
And again, watching, talking, asking trusted people in church, those folks that make those referrals, is
Mhm.
really the best place to start, because it's not a direct. Kids will tell you what they want you to know because they want to please you. They want to tell you what you want to hear.
That's
So
true.
that's why it takes a professional often to ask the right questions, because once they start going down that hill and they realize, oh, this is the right direction, they're going to continue to feed you information.
That's true.
Right. So you really managing that,
Mhm.
it really can take some skill. It can
Uh-huh.
take some skill, but be curious, be watchful and mindful. If you see something happen, don't necessarily take it lightly, but give the family some grace as you explore, kind of with your eyes and your ears, what you think may be happening.
Yes, absolutely. I love that answer. And I want to kind of pull back the layers a little bit on what you said about the stigma that we have in the community and the stigma that is with child welfare services. It is mainly a lot of people, when they think of CPS or DCFS, that their job is to pull children out of the home. Can you kind of shed light as to, that's a part of the work, that's not your first go-to, but that unfortunately sometimes it results in that, but really kind of shed light on what the real purpose of child welfare services is?
Yeah, so I've had an opportunity to implement the child welfare model across the entire county. So I developed the coaches, trained people to coach. I'm certified as a coach, because we wanted to make sure that when we begin to talk to staff, to families, that we were equipped.
Mm,
So we need to be able to walk folks through what's happening to them. It is a crisis that's really hard to recover from, and
right.
it's really difficult. Even though the department has made a lot of effort, I'm talking about LA County, but so is child welfare across the nation.
Mm-hmm.
And we're in a crisis, but we've still done really great work. Here's the
Mm-hmm.
context. So when I started, 70,000 kids were out of care. You do the little red dot tape on a map, and you will notice that there are kids in communities that are saturated with child welfare services. So we've gone from 75,000 kids to about 30,000 kids in care. That's still a lot, but 50% of those children are at home with their relatives. So it's still a lot. If one young person has to leave home, or one child has to leave home,
Mm-hmm.
it's a huge investment, well worth the work, but it's
Mm-hmm.
still a lot to go through that process. So in
Right.
communities, and they don't really care much about the data like that. And what they know is that the pain and the hurt
Right.
that they feel when they have to experience separation. And so they
Right.
still will say, and there's some names I'm not even going to say them, because they just tend to come up. So folks still tend to believe that what we really do is move kids from their biological parents or their families of origin.
Mm-hmm.
The work would say that we've done a lot of work to support families. We have housing and reunification services that can support families, and often the best folks that we've learned to speak on behalf of child welfare. One is, there a group of parents that we have that have gone through the child welfare system, that
Mm,
now have custody of their children, that come back to talk to parents about what they had to do to regain custody. Huge. It fits the thinking, especially the biblical thinking, that sheep beget sheep. That's who draws sheep.
mm,
So folks that have been in the system before are the best drawers, or the best folks to talk to people about how this works, to
Mm-hmm.
encourage families about what they should do in
Mm-hmm.
order to help support them to reunify or have their kids come back. And we think the same thing about community and investors and stakeholders and businesses. You know, when you get to meet social workers and even myself, you'll find that we're all people, that we all have children, and everybody has families that they want to go home to.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's part of the message, it is as difficult, and I know this is hard to hear, for social workers to go in and do that kind of work. It just isn't easy to be there in the midst of a crisis with a family who is really experiencing some emotions
Right.
that we haven't been together in the space to experience.
Right.
So it's been a lot of work. 20 years ago, we started apologizing to communities. We're still apologizing to communities. And today I say that I'm really sorry that we just really didn't understand the impact many years ago. We're doing a better job, but I can guarantee you that we still have a lot to learn. And we're expecting to learn that with you. So we're hoping that we can continue to partner in the effort as we go forward.
Absolutely. And I love that. I didn't know, it sounded like you said that you have parents who were in the system or dealing with the system actually come back, and there's a space or opportunity for them to kind of share their experience with those who are journeying through it.
Yeah, they're called
grammar.
Parents in Partnership. And right now they work for most of the attorneys.
Okay.
And so, but the attorney social workers. However, it started in DCFS.
Okay.
Where we asked parents to come back to share their stories if they were willing. And for families that were going through a similar experience to be able to hear what that's like from somebody with that kind of same lived experience.
I love that. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Is this program, is it kind of well known or in the community?
It should be. What I can say is that it should be, because it's not a secret. We've had it for many years.
Yeah.
But you know, depending on where people are, if you don't have contact with child welfare, then you probably don't know.
Right.
So, and we don't want a lot of people in child welfare, so it makes it difficult. But I can share that we have for social workers, absolutely, we're aware of it. P3, we call that. I think they're called P3. Are they P3? I can't remember. PIP. It's called a PIP. Parents in Partnership. They're called PIPs, and they will walk with families, kind of in the role of a lived experienced person, providing some support to families, you know, to help them, again, to walk alongside of them in this really critical phase in their life's journey.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That definitely brings a whole different light on just kind of the process, and kind of takes the fear out of it, all of it, right? Because that's initially what you feel whenever time you hear about CPS or DCFS. What I've been told is the automatic fear of it, but to know that your role is to you want to help preserve family systems and whatever resources you can to help bring the family together or to help the family stay in place. That's what your goal is. And so just to kind of know that you guys are very intentional about creating those opportunities and those partners to kind of walk with people that have already journeyed through it, that's very encouraging. So thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing that. So what are some ways that you feel we as a church body and church organization can get involved in helping prevent or spread awareness about child abuse or child abuse prevention?
Yeah, so I really like that question. And not even as a church body, this is the place where individuals can get involved if they choose to. One of the questions you asked me earlier is, what will we be looking for in children? And one way to learn is most of the child welfare doors are open and they have community meetings.
Okay.
For the most part, anybody can go to a community meeting. And in Los Angeles County, I know we have at least 20. Every office has a meeting with community.
Okay.
And the same for other jurisdictions. So they have various types of community engagement opportunities. So, and that's the place where you go, you get to meet the staff. The staff are sitting at the table, you get to meet the leadership. You get to understand how the practice works. You get to see what the practice model is like. So you learn about the rights of families. We have a court practice model. So there's an opportunity at the very beginning, there should be a meeting. And it should be a meeting where everybody's there. It does not matter what brought you to the door, but you get to bring the folks in that support you to that table to talk about what your strengths are, what your needs are, and to co-create a plan. So if somebody tells you you don't have that opportunity, then you need to back them up, because yes, absolutely. And it's not a one-time meeting. You can continue to have it throughout the process so that you know, and that people that are on the family's team or that work with the family and that are supported, so that they also know what's going on. There's some other things. There are portals. Some offices have portals. So there's a general number. They have a group of churches that work with child welfare, and they will call when they need cribs, maybe furnishings, even some trainings around employment, things of that nature. So they have some pastors that are engaged in that way, and not just pastors. It could be your church, but it could be a CBO, a community-based organization. It could be your community-based organization. It could be your LLC. If you're interested in wanting to give back to community, resources are always needed for children and families. Historically, we've always needed Pampers, and where I work, I have young people, and it's really difficult. So Christmas is really difficult. We don't have gifts for kids, and so where I am, I pay for haircuts for kids. I buy tennis shoes. I buy jean jackets. The staff there, although it's not encouraged because they're the staff and we want them to also be safe, but they do the same thing. We buy food, pizza, we have food that comes in, but it's standard. It comes from a particular place, right? But those are the kinds of things. So the staff pay for haircuts. Our staff pay to take kids out, because once we have some children that really are high needs, that have acute needs, we call them complex care needs. And so it's take a longer time to find a long-lasting family where they can receive love. So we provide a lot of those things from our own personal accounts for this population. So we'll try to go to the portal, but if not, we will just provide it. These kids have lots of challenges. So sometimes televisions get broke, they just fall off the wall by themselves. So sometimes TVs get broke. I've donated a TV, I've bought a television. The staff have bought TVs because they're gonna break the next one if they don't have a place to latch out. It becomes difficult for them, and they're going to make sure it's difficult even for the other kids. We always need television. Right now, the houses doesn't have one. I have one in my garage. I keep forgetting to take it. But those are things that we need ongoing. And the one in my garage is not a smart TV, but I've already bought 2 televisions. So I'm willing to give away a third. But those are the kinds of things that we always need. Kids don't understand how significant that is to them. So that they don't have nearly as much to do, right? So that's another way is through the portals. We have what's called cultural brokers. Cultural brokers started, I think, on the East Coast, but they are similar to the folks that I was telling you about that are PIPs. But these are other people in communities. Let's say that there are some folks in a church group or any group that just wants to be available and provide resources to families that are experiencing child welfare. And cultural brokers. So we have social workers that serve as cultural brokers that work with families of color to make sure that we can talk about what brought them there. And so if there are other folks that are interested in that kind of work, we want to provide them with a sounding board or a safe space to have those conversations. So that's one other areas that we offer for people just to be available. There's a process, so trust me, it's not an easy process, and live scan and things like that. But we know families still need help and support. And those are some of the ways that it's available. So churches, pastors, philanthropy groups, not credit cards, but gift cards, as difficult as they are, we can always use gift cards.
Okay.
Yes.
So there's just so many opportunities for people to get involved. It's just kind of knowing where to go. So as far as the portals, you said it's at each office. So can somebody just go on the DCFS website and find the locations?
At this point, probably for LA County, the best way to get involved in the portal is just to ask me. We do have a section, but you can go online and you can go to our contract section, right? So then you got to find out where it is. And you can go to faith-based resources and see if it comes up. But I know exactly where faith-based folk are. And they're the same folks that we call. It's just one number, and they service the entire community, but they have a representative at each of the 20 offices. And they put in a referral through the portal, and then someone responds and then meets that need. And I think EBC was doing some of that work either in San Bernardino or Riverside County before.
Yeah. So there's some things that are out there, and said you've made yourself available if somebody has a question that they can kind of come and ask you, and you can kind of point them in the right direction.
I can, yeah.
It's okay. Anything else you would like us to know, you feel like it would be important for us to know regarding prevention of child abuse?
No, I think this is a really great opportunity for folks to hear. Like you said, there are some things that you weren't aware of. So we have some communities that are involved. We have philanthropy groups that are involved, sharing with you that right now we have a group of mentors with lived experience who come out to sit with these young people and to talk to them and talk them through some of their challenges as they are becoming young adults. And there's a department in LA County called the Department of Arts and Culture, and they do hip hop and bring a board, and these kids lay their songs to the beats. So there's some really good opportunities. The other places are places that we struggle. So there's always a place of need. I don't know that we'll ever be able to meet it. And lastly, I'd say if we think about things that are happening in our communities, housing, you can see some other things that are happening in communities that are really challenging. There's food insecurities, that if you have young people and families that are involved in systems, imagine the impact is greater.
Right.
And it's always greater. And if there's a greater impact to families who have these needs, then there's always opportunity to give. There's always opportunity to give. So I shared some big things, but we also take toiletry bags, all of that stuff. So it's really similar. So we have folks that are unhoused that can use those supplies. And we have folks that are housed. It's really difficult meeting the ongoing needs of children and families. But it is what we do. And again, as many folks in communities that are willing to understand what that looks like or want to get into, to know, or, social work is a big field these days. Lots of opportunities for folks to come out and to be supportive of kids who really need somebody who just cares about them. And they'll tell you that. They will say that, nobody's listening to me. Really important to kind of just take a step back to hear what children and their families have to say.
Love it. And just one more question, just as I was hearing you talk about just kind of the heaviness of the work, but then also there's, like you said, so many opportunities. But what kind of keeps you going as far as being in the position that you're in and the things that you've experienced and probably seen with your staff and just working with the families directly and indirectly? What keeps you going, and what kind of things do you do to keep your cup full? Because it sounds like you're always pouring out. You're always pouring out, whether it's, your time, money, your emotions. What keeps your cup full as a leader in this work?
So, I honestly have to thank God that I didn't choose my family. I did not choose those folk. But God gave me the best family he could have given me for me. And I had nothing to do with it. So for me, it's really a safe place. It's such a refuge. And I'm saying that in the sense that, we've never had an opportunity where we don't talk to each other. We have little spats, but, being together and close is so much more important than creating space. So we don't create space. So that's one thing that's been hugely important to me. But the other thing, I've got to do some work that really matters. I'm an innovator. I'm a creative. And so innovators and creatives, folks don't understand. I'm so cool with that. It doesn't bother me one bit. And I can do high level innovations. I'm a transformational leader. I work with people that I empower like nobody's business. So the reason I don't go to work, I don't have to go to work every day because those people will run both sites. I don't need to. They'll call me. They'll check on me. They checked on me yesterday. They'll call me. I'm just checking in. So I don't even have to ask them to check in. But I've empowered them. They sit in meetings where they might not have opportunity. And sometimes I'll say, okay, I just need you to join in a listening capacity because we don't want to kind of go down the hole because you haven't been here, but I want to give you an opportunity to hear what it's like. So I invite the staff in. I try to create a really diverse space of trust. And talking about safety, when folks call me and know that they can call me and say, Regina, this is what's going on. And I'm like, well, tell me what you need and let's see how we can figure this out together. So I've learned a lot. I've taken a lot. Not only have I been in leadership, I've been a leader at an administrative level for like 20 years. Wow. So I have a chance to mess up, which I like because you can't make mistakes. I have some really good skills around strategies and how to enter into challenges, which I absolutely love. I will leave it on this. I did some training in motivational interviewing. I was trained in motivational interviewing. Motivational interviewing talks about when people don't agree. Wonderful, because it's in the places, in those deep, dark places, that we find the richness of creativity. Because I got to get everybody just to take one step in. We don't have to solve it today, but I need to know if you're willing to do this and if you're willing to do that, we could take one step in. We'll see you next week and we'll take one more step in. So from a place of motivational interviewing and using those skills and things that I kind of use every day, just incorporating how I talk to people really helps. It really, really, really helps. And so God did me one solid, I would say. Again, by giving me the family he gave me and just equipping, it comes with a lot. To whom much is given, much is required is the truth. It's a lot. So, I'm blessed in a lot of ways. And, also to have a church family is super important. But yeah, I really think it's important. If there's a challenge, it must be my fault. And then I'm gonna hold the water and then we're gonna work it out together. But I don't blame those kind of things. It's like, especially if you're the lead, for me, if I'm the lead, then I'm not blaming folk. At the end of the day, if anything works well, thank you very much, I did it. And if it doesn't work well, thank you very much, I did it. So
I
I've
love
learned,
that.
and I'm so okay with it, because
I love
now
that.
I can grow, I can learn. I may have, been in some places I haven't been before. Oh, that's
Mhm.
all right. I live in opportunities to be able to
Mhm.
create systems change, and I
Mhm.
have been doing it for like 10 years. So I create big level, high level systems change that can, make it work, and that's sustainable.
Mhm.
So those kind of problems I live to fix them, or to help people, to come together to co-create or co-design
Mhm.
um, what I might call, not necessarily solutions, but definitely kind of pathways to solutions. Because we would think about the end first. It's always about the end. No, it's like a Nipsey Hussle thing for me. It's about the journey. It's a marathon.
There you go.
It is.
There you
And I
go.
like the race. I like the race. I'm just gonna stay in it. So, not give it to the swift, right? The strong, but to he that endured, and I'm in it to the end.
I
I'm
love
in it to
it.
the end.
I love it. And from a fellow innovative thinker and transformative
Hmm.
thinker, I understand it's heavy and it can
Hmm.
be a lot. But like you said, the family that's around you, the family by blood, and the family that
Hmm.
God puts in your life
Right.
kind of pour into you, and you're able to also pour. That's so, so key. Community is
Right.
so, so key. And so,
It is important. Yeah.
well, thank you again so, so much. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to kind of educate us and pour into our cups in ways to how we can be change makers in the community and kind of just protect the well-being of our little ones, our babes, and their families, right? We want to offer that support, that grace,
Right.
love, and that understanding and education, right? A lot of times you hear they didn't know. Well,
Right.
like I said, there's always an opportunity to learn and grow. And
There.
so thank you for creating that opportunity for us today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Really
All right.
appreciate it.
Have a great day.
Alrighty. Thank you. Bye bye.